Okay, good evening. I think some people are still joining, but we'll go ahead with the session because we have a lot to cover today, right? Okay, so I'm gonna start from where we stopped last time. Okay, so we were discussing about active voice and passive voice. Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, I told you that it's your choice. I mean, you have to decide, okay, like whether you're going to use active voice or passive voice. But in science based, especially in science based research, okay, most of the time you're required to use passive voice, okay, because you're not going to talk about the agent and all that, okay. එතකොට අපිට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපිට තමයි අතන අපි decide කරන්න ඕනේ අපි use කරන්න ඕනේ active voice ද passive voice ද කියලා. දැන් අපි session එක කරනකොටත් ඔයගලන්ට තේරෙයි. okay. හැබැයි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට research writing වලදී අපේ purpose එකත් එක්ක අපිට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට passive voice use කරන්න වෙනවා. okay. But let's see how you all can make sense out of it. Okay. Yes. Let's okay. Okay. Now along with active voice and passive voice, I'm also going to talk about the kind of things that you should use when you're writing each of these parts. Okay, අපි research paper එකේ කොටස් ලියනකොට use කරනවා tense එක ගැන කතා කරනවා. So it's it's a simultaneous thing. Okay, we'll be talking about the tense plus the active voice and the passive voice aspect. Okay, now so let's look at these example. Now here I've said, okay, you can use present tense when you're writing your introduction, discussion, and the conclusion. Okay. But across these things, again, sometimes you can go for mixed tenses as well. Okay. දැන් අපිට introduction එකට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපි present tense use කරනවා. හැබැයි අපිට සමහරවිට ඔයගලන්ට මම පෙන්නන්නම් examples mixed tenses වලට යන්නත් පුළුවන්. Okay. ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ requirement එක අනුව අපිට mixed tense එකක් use කරන්න පුළුවන් නැත්නම් අපිට present tense use කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ කොටස් වල. Okay, let's look at one thing. Okay, so vitamin A, or some people pronounce this as vitamin. Okay, so whatever, vitamin A increases the risk of hair loss. Okay, now here one sentence is in active voice and the other one is in passive voice. එකක් ඔයගලන්ට active voice වලින් තියෙනවා, අනිත් sentence එක passive voice වලින් තියෙන්නේ. Now let's read through both and see what is the difference. Okay, now look at the second sentence. The risk of hair loss is increased by vitamin A. Okay, now in the second one, what is highlighted? Process or the agent? In the second one, what is highlighted? Or is in the second sentence, okay, what gets the importance? Process, what happens, or is the agent? What causes it? Exactly. Okay, I got the answer in the chat box. Okay, it's the process. Okay, so here we have used in the second one, we are going for the passive construction because we want to give emphasis to the process of hair loss. අපිට මේ hair loss කියන process එකට තමයි importance එක දෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒක අපි passive construction එකට ගිහින් තියෙන්නේ. Okay, now look at the first one. Okay, vitamin A increases the risk of hair loss. So in the first one, we have used an active voice sentence because we want to give the emphasis to the agent. Okay, ඒ කියන්නේ hair loss එක සිද්ධ කරන්න ඒ කියන්නේ සම්බන්ධ වෙන agent තමයි අපි මෙතන importance එක දීලා තියෙන්නේ. Okay, now what do you think? Now what do you think, especially in a sentence like this? Okay, what do you think? Is it okay to use both, or is do you specifically have to use a passive sentence? What do you think? It's your decision. I mean, you need to decide what you want to highlight. My question is, අපි generally ලියනකොට ඔයගලන්ට මෙතන sentences දෙකක් තියෙනවා. මේ දෙකෙන් ඔයගලන්ට හිතනද අපි passive construction එකට විතරමයි යන්න ඕනේ නැත්නම් active construction එකටත් මේ වගේ තැනකදී ගියාට කමක් නැහැ කියලා. What do you think? What do you think? First one, it's vitamin A increases the risk of hair loss. And the second one, the risk of hair loss is increased by vitamin A. The අපි intro එකක let's say we are going to have this in a discussion, or is in the conclusion intro part. Okay, exactly. Okay, it depends on the objective of the writer. Okay, it's up to you. Okay, අපිට මේ දෙකම use කරත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. It's your choice. Okay, So that's why I told you, you don't have to stick to passive voice per se. Apita passive construction, if that is scientific writing, you only have to use passive constructions. No. Okay, in instances like this, okay, especially in the intro part and all that, it's okay for you to use active voice as well. Say them, you know, the types they can use කරට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ අපි requirement එක අනුව තමයි අපි decide කරන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට මෙතන introduction එකේදී active construction එකට ගියත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ. So it's up to you. Okay, I mean just look at the two, not a problem. Okay, let's see. Let's look at this one. Okay. Okay, volatile organic compounds emitted from industries and vehicles exhaust can induce a serious environmental problems, including photochemical smog, broken ozonosphere, and environmental pollution. Okay, let's look at the passive construction of it. Okay, a series of environmental problems, including photochemical smog, broken ozonosphere, and environmental pollution, can be induced by volatile organic compounds emitted from industries and vehicle exhaust. Okay, so the same scenario. Okay, so you have to decide, okay, what you should emphasize. Now for some people, when you're trying to put that into the passive construction, so you might get confusion. සමහර වෙලාවට අපි passive construction එකට යනකොට sentence structure එකේ පොඩි පොඩි වෙනස්කම් ඔයගලන්ට identify කරගන්න බැරි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So be careful. Okay, whereas in the active one, like which one is easier for you to understand? Just tell me which one is easier for you to understand. Imagine you are the reader. අපි read නම් අපිට ඉස්සෙල්ලම මේ constructions දෙකේ හැටියට ඔයගලන්ට ලේසියෙන් කියව ගන්න පුළුවන් මොකක්ද? Yes, which one? Active one or the passive voice? Active one. Okay, because active voice like sentences, they are a bit like straightforward. Okay, active voice sentence එක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් straightforward. So decide, okay, what you should use. දැන් මෙතන නම් අපි intro like conclusion discussion part එක යන දෙයක්. එතකොට මෙතන අපිට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ active voice ද passive voice ද කියන එක. ඔයගලන්ට පැහැදිලි වෙන දේ තමයි ඔයගොල්ලෝ focus කරන්න ඕනේ. I mean you need to have this basic idea to emphasize things correctly and accurately. Okay, so it's up to you, you have to decide. But then if you are specially going for a passive construction, just know the form as well. Okay, just know the tense. Passive construction එකට යනවා නම් අපි අනිවාර්යෙන් tense එක බලන්න ඕනේ, and then you have to like change these things according to the tense. So up like last day, I think I told you all about the like tense aspect of active constructions and passive constructions. So you need to know the form. අපි passive construction එකට යන්න නම් form එක දැනගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ. අනිවාර්යෙන් tense aspect එක දැනගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ. Okay, let's look at the first one. Okay, now vitamin A increases the risk of hair loss. Increases the risk of. So when you are turning that into passive construction, okay, you need to know the form. මේක අපි present tense එකක් කියලා identify කරගන්න ඕනේ. ඒ identification එකකින් අපි passive construction එකේ format එක ගන්න ඕනේ. Okay, otherwise now imagine you are going to put like here it says increases, you are going to put like was increased. Okay, then you will be wrong. So if you're going for a passive construction, I mean my point is this. Okay, depending on your requirement you can use both. Okay, and sometimes active constructions for like especially for the intro and all that, like you can use the active constructions as well, because active in an active construction the sentence or the idea is a bit more straightforward. අපිට ලේසියෙන් තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඔයගොල්ලෝ especially අපි methodology එකට වගේ යනකොට ඔයගලන්ට තේරෙයි අපි කරපු කෙනා නෙමෙයි emphasize කරන්නේ process එක. So there you will have to use passive construction. So depending on, I mean just know the requirement and then the function. Okay, මොන වෙලාවටද අපි use කරන්නේ? එතකොට function එක අපි හරියට දැනගෙන හිටියොත් අපිට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. අපේ requirement එක අනුව අපිට use කරන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි passive constructions වලදී අනිවාර්යෙන්ම ඔයගොල්ලෝ form එක දැනගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ. මොකද form එක වැරදියට ගත්තොත් එහෙම අපි වෙන idea එකක් emphasize කරන්න පුළුවන්. Okay, yes, let's see. Okay, let's look at this one. Okay, okay, another example. Okay, active. In this study we present our design of an electric hot water tank. Okay, present tense. Okay, and then let's look at the passive form. In this study, a design of an electric hot water tank is presented. Okay, now in some of the research papers and with some of the supervisors, they might ask, okay, you should not use personal pronouns. අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් supervisors like and also the universities, okay, especially if you are working with a foreign university, okay, they have like specific requirements according to the like disciplines, and then according to departmental requirements, there are like special things that you have to follow and adhere to, okay, and especially it depends on your supervisor as well. එතකොට සමහර disciplines වල අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් personal pronouns use කරන්න එපා කියලා. So if you are to make absent, if you are to make it absent, if you are to do away with the personal pronoun, then what is the best construction that you can opt for? අපි personal pronouns use කරන්නේ නැතුව sentence එක create කරන්න, එහෙනම් අපිට ඉතුරු වෙන option එක මොකක්ද? What is the option that we can take in order to absent, in order to do away with the personal pronoun? Yes. Which construction? First one or the second one? Passive. Okay. අපේ requirement එක කියන්නේ අපිට දීලා තියෙන guidelines අනුව අපිට personal pronouns use කරන්න බෑ. ඒ වගේ දේවල් දීලා තියෙනවා නම් then not a problem, you can go for a passive construction. Okay. So and then because in some of the studies you are like directly asked not to use personal pronouns. සමහර studies වල මේ මමත් දැකලා තියෙන සමහර supervisors කියනවා personal pronouns use කරන්න එපා කියලා. So if you are to avoid personal pronouns, okay, so this is going for a passive construction is one option that you have. Okay. If it permits, not a problem, you can go for an active construction. Okay. I think our respect එකක් නැහැ. ඔයගොල්ලෝ personal pronouns අයින් කරලා ගොඩාක් ලියන්න කැමති කෙනෙක් නම් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට passive construction එකට යන්න පුළුවන්. But again, be careful of the form and then the tense aspect that you are going to use. Okay. Yes. And let's look at this one. Okay. This study develops an efficient methodology to examine a space-time continuous data set for urban irrigation water use. Okay. Yes. Let's see. An efficient methodology to examine a space-time continuous data set for urban irrigation water use is developed in this study. So which one do you like to use? Can you use both? Or else do you specifically have to go for a passive construction? Can we use, I mean, is it okay to use both? Or else do we specifically have to go for a passive construction? අපිට මේ sentences දෙකම use කරන්න පුළුවන්ද නැත්නම් passive construction එකටම යන්න ඕනද මේ වගේ instance එකකදී? Yes, what do you think? Let me check. You can use both. Okay. Yes, you can use both. Now in a case like this, it's not a problem, you can actually use both. Dekam use කරන්න පුළුවන් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ, but specifically in an instance like this, okay, where this one is used, okay, where the personal pronouns is used, you can do away with that by going for a passive construction. Yes. Let's see. And another tends to be used in intros and then the discussions and conclusions is the present perfect. එතකොට අපිට තව මේ intro එකකදී discussion section එකකදී conclusion එකකදී use කරන්න පුළුවන් tense එකක් තමයි මේ present perfect කියන්නේ. So along with present tense, you can also go for a present perfect tense. Okay, but know the correct form. අපි මේ හැම දෙයකම form එක දැනගන්න present perfect කියන්නේ මොකද, what is present tense and what is present perfect, and you need to know the difference and all these things. Okay, let's look at the examples. Let's look at the active voice sentence. Okay, previous studies have used comparative analysis of ORF2 sequence to elucidate phylogenetic relationships among different FCV isolates. Okay, now here previous studies have used. Okay, previous studies have used කියලා තියෙන්නේ. අපි present perfect tense එකට ගිහිලා තියෙන්නේ. Okay, previous studies have used comparative analysis of ORF2 sequence to elucidate phylogenetic relationships among different FCV isolates. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේකේ content එක අදාළ නැහැ. Tense aspect එක දිහා බලන්න. Okay, and let's look at the passive construction. Comparative analysis of ORF2 sequences has been. Okay, comparative analysis. Now, like comparative analysis. Okay, now can you remember we did the subject verb agreement? Okay, now here what is the like now let's look at, okay, comparative analysis, singular plural. Comparative analysis of ORF2 sequences. දැන් මෙතන sequences කියලා last word එක තියෙන්නේ, but look at the whole thing. Comparative මේවා තමයි අපිට ගොඩක් වෙලාට වරදින්නේ. Okay, comparative analysis of ORF2 sequences. So what do you actually consider when you are keeping the verb? මෙතන verb එක තියන්න අපි consider කරන්නේ sequences කියන එකද නැත්නම් comparative analysis? What do you consider? මේ වගේ ඒවා තමයි අපිට වරදින්නේ. What do you consider? The word comparative analysis or is the sequences? Or else do you consider like the whole, like this thing together? Yes. Okay, now here ඔයගොල්ලන්ට හිතන්න පුළුවන් මේ ආසන්නකම තියෙන ORF2 sequences. Okay, මෙතන හැබැයි sequences කියන එක නෙමෙයි අපි consider කරන්නේ comparative analysis. Okay, comparative analysis of ORF2 sequences. Okay, ORF2 වල, okay, analysis of ORF2 sequences. ORF2 sequences වල comparative analysis එකක් කියන එක තමයි අපි මෙතන mean කරන්නේ. So technically, like when you are keeping the tense, okay, when you decide on this, okay, you have to go ahead with this one, okay, comparative analysis. එතකොට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපිට මෙන්න මේ වගේ දේවල් නම් වරදින්න ඉඩ තියෙනවා. Now, if you cannot identify it properly, you will end up putting, okay, a comparative analysis of ORF2 sequences have been used. Okay, so like be careful, okay, of these things. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මේ off එක එනකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ හොඳට බලන්න ඔයගොල්ලෝ කොහොමද tense එක decide කරන්නේ, මොකක්ද අපි consider කරන්නේ කියන එක චුට්ටක් බලන්න. Okay, yes. So here also, like what would you like to use, and or else like can we use both? Can we use both, or else is there a particular thing that you would, or is that you think you have to use? අපිට දෙකම use කරන්න පුළුවන්ද නැත්නම් ඔයගලන්ට active construct passive construction එකට විතරම දෙන්න පුළුවන්? What do you think? Can we use both? Yes. Again, here also you can use both, not a problem. Okay, let's look at the other one. Okay, only a small number of empirical studies have focused on the patterns and the mechanisms behind disease clusters at small spatial scales, especially in wild host pathogen systems. Okay, so active construction එක අපි මෙතන මේ present perfect use කරලා තියෙන have focused. Okay, only a small number of empirical studies, okay, have focused. Okay, now yes, okay, now the thing is this, when you are trying to turn this into passive, you have to be careful. මොකද අපි මේ sentence එක passive sentence එකක් කරනකොට අපි පරිස්සම් වෙන්න ඕනේ. Okay, now let's see. Only a small number of empirical studies have focused on the patterns and mechanisms behind disease clusters at small spatial scales. Let's see the patterns. අපි එතකොට මෙතනින් තමයි අපි පටන් ගන්න තියෙන passive sentence එක අපි change කරලා තියෙන්නේ. Okay, object එක. Let's see. Yes, the patterns and mechanisms behind disease clusters at small spatial scale, especially in wild host pathogen systems, have been focused on by only a small number of empirical studies. Okay, now especially in a case like this, which one is easier for you to understand? Which one is easier for you to understand? Passive construction or the active construction? Just read these sentences for yourself. මේ sentence එක ඔයගොල්ලෝ කියවන්න. And read it and tell me like which one is easier for you to understand. Yes, active construction. Okay, so if that's a case where you don't specifically have to go for a passive construction, you can go for the active construction as well. okay දැන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ස්පෙෂල් රික්වයර්මන්ට් එකක් නැත්තම් මෙතන ඒජන්ට්ව ඇබ්සන්ට් ඒ කියන්නේ කරන ක්‍රියාව කරන කෙනාට එයාව අයින් කරලා ලියන්න එහෙම රික්වයර්මන්ට් එකක් නැත්තම් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට අර වඩාත් පැහැදිලි විදිහට ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ සෙන්ටෙන්ස් එක කියන්න active construction එකට යන්න පුළුවන් not a problem but then just know the function මම ඒකයි නිතරම කියන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැනගන්න අපි හරියටම use කරන්න පුළුවන් instance එක මොකක්ද කියලා and then if there isn't a like a special requirement just try to see whether you can use both active constructions and then passive ones okay දැන් අර අපි ගොඩක් මම හිතන්නේ මේ වැරදි අදහසක ඉන්නේ මේ research paper එක passive විතරමයි ලියන්න පුළුවන් එහෙම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ අපි highlight කරන්න ඕන like fact එක ඒ වගේම ඒ කොටස් අනුව now here like one of these things will appear in a like let's say going to appear in an intro okay so not a problem api active construction එකට ගියා කියලා ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ okay because sometimes the active construction is like more straightforward okay so it's up to you have to decide okay let's see this okay so in the materials methods and results section we are again using the past tense api godak like මේ sections වලදී use කරන්නේ past tense okay let's see active voice we determine the presence of larva by definiting okay by deepnetting the presence of larva was determined by deepnetting now imagine you are not encouraged to use personal pronouns අපිට personal pronouns use කරන්න එපා කියලා තියෙනවා so here if you are asked to or else if you want to avoid the use of the personal pronoun what can you use which one is the best one active construction or the passive construction අපි personal pronouns use කරන්නේ නැතුව අපේ research paper එක ලියනවා අපිට මොන construction එකද වඩාත් සුදුසු active or the passive the passive construction is more suitable okay now here the passive construction will like do more justice okay so try to go for that okay ඉතින් මේ වගේ instance එකකදී ඔයගලන්ට like ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මම එකයි කිව්වේ methodology section එකේදී okay results ඒ sections වලදී අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට passive constructions වලට තමයි යන්නේ because we are not specifically talking about the doer but we are focusing about the action අපි process එකට නැත්නම් action එකට තමයි importance එක දෙන්නේ කරපු කෙනාට නෙමෙයි agent ගොඩක් වෙලාවට absent කරලා ලියන්නේ so especially in these sections you can go for a passive construction මේ instances වලදී ඔයගලන්ට passive construction එකට යන්න පුළුවන් and it's also like especially like if you're going for like small sentences small emphatic sentences it's not a like big deal for you to come up with a passive sentence අපි මේ වගේ පොඩි sentences වලට යනකොට අපිට passive sentence එක හදාගන්න එකත් ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෙවෙයි so in a case like this you can go for a passive construction okay let's look at this one we evaluated the number of haplotypes okay haplotypes H haplotypes HD and nucleotides using the DNA SP 5.10 program okay the number of haplotypes H haplotypes HD and nucleotides was evaluated using the DNA SP 5.10 program okay now here which one is the best one active construction or the passive construction which one do you prefer to use active construction එක මේකේ content එක දිහා ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලන්න එපා tense එක විතරක් බලන්න okay yes not a problem okay I mean it doesn't matter I mean you can use these things regardless whether you are doing a quantitative or it's a qualitative research එහෙම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ අර මම එකයි කිව්වේ අපිට අර මේ වැරදි අදහසක් තියෙනවා passive constructions විතරමයි යන්නේ එහෙම නීතියක් නැහැ අපේ requirement එක අනුව තමයි දැන් මෙතන අනිවාර්යෙන් අපිට ඒ කියන්නේ මෙතන අනිවාර්යෙන් අපිට passive construction එකට යන එක තමයි හොඳ නැතුව අපිට doer absent කරන්න අමාරුයි okay so in a case like this like better to go for a passive construction okay so I hope I answered your question එහෙම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ අර requirement එක අනුව තමයි මම එකයි කිව්වේ ඒ කියන්නේ අපි කියන්න යන දෙයට කියන්න යන idea එකට වෙනසක් වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් අපිට active voice ද passive voice ද කියලා එහෙම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ okay දැන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙන්නේ නැති අපි කලින් කතා කරපු examples වල ඔයගොල්ලන්ටම තේරෙන්නේ නැති අපි sentences දෙක compare කරනකොට like when you are going to add this like let's go with this one Okay. Now let's see these ones. Okay. So these ones, okay, like regardless of the fact that whether you are going to do and call it, whether you're going to do a qualitative or as a quantitative research, okay, this a sentence like this would appear. අපි quantitative the qualitative the කියලා ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ මේ වගේ sentences අපිට අපේ research paper එක පුරාවටම එනවා. මොකද intro එක අනිවාර්යෙන් තියෙනවානේ. එතකොට ඔයගලන්ට තේරෙයි මේ sentences දෙක like when you try to compare these two sentences, okay, like what do you think, is there an impact? මේ sentences දෙක දිහා බැලුවම ඕගලන්ට තේරෙයි මේ වගේ කොටසක මේ active ද passive ද කියලා අපිට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. Anyway the job is done. Okay, so I hope you got the answer, right? Let's move ahead. Okay, now let's see. Okay, now here, okay, now why do we use, okay, and then this is another common mistake මේ අපිට තවත් වරදින තැන. Now here we say the number of haplotypes H, haplotypes HD and nucleotides. Okay, why do we put was here? ඇයි අපි මෙතන was කියලා දාලා තියෙන්නේ? Why do we put was? Or else why do we put was? ඇයි අපි was කියන එක දාලා තියෙන්නේ? Now we are talking about haplotypes, haplotypes H, haplotypes HD, nucleotides. අපි nucleotides ගැන කතා කරනවා, haplotypes, okay, එතකොට haplotypes වර්ග දෙකක් ගැන කතා කරනවා. ඒත් ඇයි අපි මෙතන verse කියන එක අරන් තියෙන්නේ? Why? These are instances where we can go wrong. මේවා තමයි අපිට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මම නම් දැකලා තියෙන research papers වල වැරදිලා තියෙන තැන්. Why? Why? Yes, okay, because you have this one, okay, the number of, okay, the number of. So be careful in those kind of instances. ඒවා පොඩ්ඩක් වරද්දන්න එපා. මෙතන ඔයගොල්ලන්ට හිතෙන්න පුළුවන් okay ගොඩක් මෙතන types තියෙන haplotypes H එක තියෙන haplotypes HD, okay, nucleotides එහෙම කියලා now, but here the like beginning word is the number of. Okay, so be careful. So here like just think of yourself, okay, just think that you're going to include one of these. So what is the best one to be included? Active construction or the passive construction? Earlier we didn't have problems in some of the instances, but again when we wanted to like do away with the personal pronoun, we like opted for going for a passive construction. Now here, what do you think, which one is better? In the second example, which one is better, active construction or the passive construction? Which one is better, active construction or the passive construction? Which one is better? Yes. Both are okay, but especially in the methodology section, okay, if you can, if there's space, try to go for a passive construction. දෙකම use කරන්න පුළුවන්. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට දැන් අපිට කියනවනේ අපි personal pronouns use කරන්නේ නැතුවනේ ගොඩක් වෙලාවට research paper එක මේ ගොඩක් disciplines වල ලියන්න try කරන්නේ. එතකොට ඔයගලන්ට කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. මෙතන passive construction එකට යන්නත් පුළුවන්. Then that is like clearly done, okay, because now here you don't have to like put again like we evaluated, okay, who evaluated is immaterial, okay, like what you evaluated is the most important thing, okay. So you can actually go for a passive construction, but again the active construction is not a problem, but the more suitable one can be the passive construction, okay. Passive construction එකට යන්න පුළුවන් මේ වගේ අවස්ථාවකදී active construction එක ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ. හැබැයි මම හිතන්නේ අපි we evaluated, like we don't need to keep that, okay. So you can go for a passive construction, but not a problem, you can use both. Let's see, look at the third one. We found a strong correlation between above ground and below ground biomass accumulation in Platanus occidentalis, okay. We found a strong correlation. Now what do you think, do we specifically need to say like imagine අපි අපේ research paper එක ලියනවා කියලා, okay, we evaluated, we found, so you are putting all this we together. What do you think, is that okay? We evaluated, we found, I found, what do you think? I evaluated, you're putting them like throughout together. What do you think? Is that okay? Repetition plus that's like you're adding unnecessary information, right? So and then so with that logic, what is the best construction to be used, active or the passive? Yes, better to use passive construction. Okay, otherwise you will have to repeat. Okay, we evaluated, okay, we found, you will have to repeat. So especially in these sections, okay, methodology, results, and these sections, try to go for the passive construction. Now you don't have to say you found a strong correlation. It's just enough to say a strong correlation was found. Okay, correlation එකක් මේ study කරන්න හම්බුණා කියන එක නෙමෙයි. A strong correlation was found. That is like smooth, and that is kind of like professional. Okay, so especially in these sections, try to go for passive construction. Then there is a balance in your paper. Okay, because in the intro part and all these parts, okay, you have go for the like active constructions and passive both. So there is a like balanced, and then you have like actually like gain what you want. Okay, අපි tenses balance කරලා තියෙනවා, active voice passive voice balance කරලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට අපිට අර requirement එක අනුව තමයි අපි decide කරන්න. මේ වගේ තැනක අපි හැමතිස්සෙම කියනවා we evaluated, I found කියනට වැඩිය අපි කෙලින්ම like what you found is the most important thing rather than who found it. Okay, so you can give the emphasis to, so now here, okay, a strong correlation, so that is the most important thing. What kind of a correlation we found, මොන වගේ correlation එකක් අපි මේ entities අතර දැක්කේ කියන එක තමයි වැදගත්. Okay, so there you can technically go for a passive construction. Okay, okay, so let me like sum up some of these things. Okay, we'll like especially look at when to use passive voice. Okay, so when you want to emphasize the receiver rather than the agent, okay, or is when you want to emphasize the like process rather than the performer. Okay, process එක කියන්නේ agent ට වඩා අපිට process එක, okay, emphasize කරන්න ඕන නම් අපිට passive construction එකට යන්න පුළුවන්. Let's see the risk of hair loss. So that is the sorry, that is the ultimate cause. Okay, the risk of hair loss is increased by vitamin A. Okay, the risk of hair loss is increased by vitamin A. Okay, but again, now what do you think? Okay, let's try to compare these two sentences. Okay, let me put them in the chat box because I want to highlight another one. Okay, let's look at this one. Now, please go to your chat box, okay? And I put two sentences. Let's look at them, okay? The risk of hair loss is increased by vitamin A. We found a strong correlation. So that was the like, that is this sentence, okay? The previous one, okay? Now here, in the second one, you can do away with V. But in the first one, can we remove vitamin A? දැන් මේ දෙවෙනි එකේ නම් අපිට V කියන එක absent කරන්න ඕනේ. යාව අයින් කරන්න ඕනේ. ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. Purposely we are removing that. Okay, and by purposely we can remove it by going for a passive construction. But look at the sentence one. Can we like do away with the agent? මේ sentence පළවෙනි sentence එකේ අපිට agent ව අයින් කරලා මේ දේ ගැන කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? Can we remove the agent? No. Okay. So remember, like sometimes you can do away with the agent, but sometimes you cannot do away with the agent. සමහර වෙලාවට අපිට agent ව අයින් කරන්න බෑ. Like agent is also constituting an important information in the sentence. ඒකෝට සමහර වෙලාවට agent ව අපිට අයින් කරන්න බෑ. මොකද agent මේ sentence එකේ අපිට වැදගත් කාර්යභාරයක් කරනවා. Okay? So can go for a can go for an active sentence, not a problem. මේ වගේ තැනකදී අපි active construction එකට ගියාට කමක් නැහැ. මොකද අපිට agent අයින් කරන්න බෑ. Okay? Sharani, like these are like, this is not the same sentence. Two sentences, okay? These are not the like parts of the same sentence. Okay. Now my point is, okay, in some of the sentences, even though you want in some of the sentences you cannot do away with the agent. සමහර sentences වල agent අපිට ගොඩක් වැදගත්. එයාත් ඒ sentence එකේ වැදගත් කොටසක්, වැදගත් information එකක් අපිට දෙනවා. So in case you cannot do away with the agent, if you want to keep the agent, not a problem, you can go for an active construction. Okay, but in some of the constructions, like in the second one, දෙවෙනි sentence එකේ වගේ අපිට agent අයින් කරන්න ඕන නම්, you can like without deciding anything, you can straight away go for a passive construction. අපි agent අයින් කළා කතා කරන්න, මොකද එතන v කියන එකේ impact එකක් නැහැ, information එකේ impact එකක් නැහැ. But vitamin A, okay, that is important. Okay, so just decide one thing for you to like see. And also you can use passive construction when you want to keep the subject and focus consistent throughout the passage. Okay, again අපිට subject එක consistent විදිහට passage එක පුරාවටම එක විදිහට ගන්න ඕන නා. Let's see. Female pattern hair loss. Okay, female pattern hair loss is common, but estimates of its prevalence have varied widely. The risk of female pattern hair loss. අපි ඒ කියන්නේ subject එක අපි maintain එකම විදිහට ගන්නවා නම් අපිට ආපහු යන්න පුළුවන් passive construction එකට, ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. Let's see. And also like if you wish, okay, if you do not wish to name the subject, අපිට subject එක name කරන්න අවශ්‍ය නැත්නම් අපිට passive construction එකට යන්න පුළුවන්. Let's see. The procedure was somehow misinterpreted. Okay, the procedures were somehow misinterpreted. So you don't necessarily say, okay, who misinterpreted. Okay, you can go for a passive construction. Okay, and the other one, to describe the condition in which the actor is unknown or unimportant. Okay, ඒ කියන්නේ ක්‍රියාව කරන කෙනා වැදගත් නැත්නම් එයාව mention කරන්න අවශ්‍ය නැත්නම් අපිට passive construction එකට යන්න පුළුවන්. Every year thousands of people are diagnosed with cancer. We don't say who necessarily diagnosed, we say like what happens. Okay, so these are the like general instances where you can go for a passive construction. Okay. Yes. Now let's again look at the like verb tenses, okay, that we can use. Okay. So in the introduction, as I told you earlier when we were talking about active and passive constructions, okay, in the intro part you can actually go for a like a mixture of tenses. අපිට introduction එකේදී අත්‍තරම අපි tenses mixture එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්. You can use present tense, you can also use present perfect and even past tense. Okay. Now let's see. Okay, present tense, you can specifically use present tense when you are stating general truths regarding your topic. ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ topic එකට සම්බන්ධ general truths state කරනකොට අපිට present tense use කරන්න පුළුවන්. Let's see. Today, just over half of NIH funded clinical research participants are women. Okay. So like when you are talking about like what everybody knows and all that, you can use present tense. So that is one instance. And let's look at this one. Okay, when to use present perfect. Okay, use when describing actions that happened in the past but are still relevant today. Okay, present perfect එක අපිට ගොඩක් use කරන්න පුළුවන්. අතීතයේ සිද්ධ වුණ ක්‍රියාවල් හැබැයි අදටත් ඒව අදාළයි. Okay, එතකොට අපිට present perfect use කරන්න පුළුවන්. Let's see. A certain rigorous studies evaluating the effects of sex differences have been effective in bridging the divide between animal and human birth. Certain rigorous studies evaluating the effects of sex differences, okay, have been effective in bridging. Okay, have been means they started in the past, but they are like still like they are important. Okay, so when you want to highlight something like that, you can use again present perfect. Okay. Let's see how we are going to use past tense in the intro part. Okay, so past tense you can specifically use when you're talking about previous studies or is past events. Okay, earlier this year A study demonstrated that mice with XY chromosomes in the central nervous system had greater neurodegeneration than did those with excess chromosomes. Okay, so for example, you say in the previous studies only this particular thing was studied. අපි කියනවානේ කලින් studies වල මෙන්න මේ දේ study කරලා තිබ්බා. අපි intro part එකේ දාන වෙලාවට, especially if you are putting intro and the literature review together, you will have to do that. Okay, so there you can go for past tense as well. Okay. Okay, and materials and methods. So materials and methods, okay. The tense most often, okay, now usually you are using past tense. Api materials and methods section එක අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් use කරන්නේ past tense එක, but you can also go for like past perfect tense and past continuous tense. Okay, let's look at these tenses, but like just remember it's like 80% we are using past tense. Okay, in the methods, materials and the methodology section. Let's see. Okay. You can use past tense when describing the materials and methods that were used during the study. අපි study එකේ use කරපු materials and methods ගැන. ඉතින් අපි study එක කරන වෙලාවේ experiment එක කරන වෙලාවේ නැත්නම් අපි study එක කරනකොට use කරපු දේවල් ගැන කතා කරන්න අපිට past tense use කරන්න පුළුවන්. Let's see. A bacterial genomic DNA was isolated from mice feces, amplified for V1, V4 hypervariable regions of the 16S RNA gene, and used for pyrosequencing analysis. Okay, let's see. Bacterial genomic DNA was isolated from mice feces. So active or passive? What is this one? Active construction or passive? Bacterial genomic DNA was isolated from mice feces, amplified for V1, V4 hypervariable regions of the 16S. This is passive. Okay, අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට materials methodology section එකේදී passive constructions තමයි use කරන්නේ. නැත්නම් අර V කියන එක අපිට දාන්න වෙනවා. කවුද කරේ කියන එක, which is immaterial. Okay. Yes, we have gone for a passive construction. Okay, now see passive. What is the tense? Okay, passive, that is true, but what is the tense? What is the tense? Passive, and what is the tense? Past. Okay, past tense. Okay, see, bacterial genomic DNA was isolated from the mice feces. Okay, අපි කවුද කරේ කියන එක නෑනේ. Okay, we don't put that. Okay, and see, amplified for V1, V4 hypervariable regions. Okay, and used. That is another one. Let's see. And now let's see when we can use past perfect, especially when we are talking about the methodology and the material section. Okay, past perfect tense. Used when describing an action that occurred before another action. Now this is important. Okay, now sometimes, now especially in science-based research, okay, if you are into like engineering and all that, okay, so you are talking about different steps that were involved in the experiment process. Okay, අපි engineering related subjects වලට ඉන්නකොට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපි මේ steps ගැනනේ කතා කරන්නේ. Okay, like you will be talking about different steps, okay, in the process, especially if you are into like engineering, medicine and all that. So when you want to talk about one action that happened before the other one, අපිට සමහරවිට කියන්න මෙන්න මේ condition එක සපුරා ගත්තට පස්සේ මෙහෙම කරා. Okay, so both the conditions, were they completed in the past or not? Were both completed in the past or not? Were both completed in the past or not? When we say like, okay, we did this, we went for this after like after, let's say, fulfilling this action. මෙන්න මේ action එක ඉවර වුණාට පස්සේ ඊළඟ action එක කරා. එතකොට අපිට actions දෙකම අපිට ඉවර වෙලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට අපිට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට past perfect construction එකට තමයි යන්න වෙන්නේ. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේ engineering, okay, and then medicine, okay, related field එකකට ඉන්නකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ experiments වල අනිවාර්යෙන් කියනවා ඒ කියන්නේ එක step එකක් fulfill වෙන විදිහ අනුව ඊළඟ step එකට ගියා කියන එක අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට කරනවා. Okay, so we are writing. So both the actions okay, have happened in the past. So there you can go for a past perfect tense. Let's see. Okay. Once the temperature set in the thermostat had been reached. Okay. Once the temperature set in the thermostat had been reached, the system was allowed to equilibrate for 30 minutes. The system was allowed to equilibrate for 30 minutes. Now here, okay, දැන් මේ sentence එක හොඳට බලන්න මේක ගොඩක් හැමෝටම වැදගත්. Okay, science based නම් ගොඩක් වැදගත් මේක. Once the temperature set in the thermostat had been reached. Okay, කියන්නේ thermostat එකේ අවශ්‍ය temperature එකට ළඟා වුණාම the system was allowed to equilibrate for 30 minutes. ඊට පස්සේ තමයි system එක equilibrate වෙන්න දාලා දෙන්නේ. So which action happened first? Which action happened first? Which action happened first? Keeping it for 30 minutes to equilibrate, or is the temperature reaching the required limit? මේ actions දෙකෙන් කොකද ඉස්සෙල්ලා සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? Which action happened first? The temperature. No, like okay, it's not the 30-minute thing. Okay, that is the second action. So the first thing is we waited for the temperature to reach a specific limit. Okay, ඉස්සෙල්ලාම අපි temperature එක අවශ්‍ය ප්‍රමාණයට ළඟා වෙනකන් ඉඳලා තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ තමයි මිනිත්තු 30ක් equilibrate කරන්න දාලා තියෙන්නේ. So technically, okay, temperature reaching its required level is the first action. So if you're writing a sentence like this, okay, අතීතේ ඉවරුන sentences වාක්‍ය දෙකක් අපි එකට combine කරනවා නම් for the action that happened first, ඉස්සෙල්ලාම උන action එකට අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන් present perfect. So that's why we put, okay, once the temperature set in the thermostat reached the, okay, okay, අපි වෙලාවකට කියනවානේ celsius අංශක මෙන්න මෙච්චරකට ළඟා වුණාට පස්සේ, okay, okay, අපි ඊට පස්සේ කියනවා ඒ වගේ කියනවනේ අපි මේ ගානට ළඟා වුණාට පස්සේ. එතකොට ඒ action එක ඉස්සෙල්ලා වෙනවා. ඒ action එක observe කරලා ඒක අනුව තමයි අපි ඊළඟ action එකට යන්නේ. ඉතින් science basic කියන්නේ මම ඉස්සෙල්ලා කිව්වා වගේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ medicine engineering ඒගොල්ලෝ එතකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ තනිකර experiments එක යන්නේ. ඉතින් experiments වල steps describe වෙන්නේ ওই විදිහට. Okay, ඉතින් ඔයක කියන්න දන්නේ නැත්නම් ප්‍රශ්නයක්. අනිවාර්යෙන් use වෙන sentence එකක් තමයි. ඉතින් අනිවාර්යෙන් අපි past perfect tense use කරනවා ඒ වගේ දේවල් වලදී. So did you like do I have people who are into like science related disciplines? Do I have people who are into science related disciplines? Yes, right? Okay, so I hope this is important for you all. By the way, did you understand the application of this sentence? මොකද මේ මම ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මම lab reports වලත් දැකලා තියෙනවා. In some of the lab reports of the students also I have seen this. Students cannot get this properly. මේක හරියටම යන්නේ නැහැ ඔය sentence එක ඔයක කියාගන්න ගොඩක් අයට අමාරුයි. So did you people who are into science related disciplines, did you understand this? Yes, right? Okay, let's see. And past continuous, but again past continuous you can have like past continuous tense, but that is not frequently used. Okay, then past continuous tense එක මම කියලා දෙන්නම්. හැබැයි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට use වෙන්නේ නැහැ. But again if you are into medicine you will have to use. Okay, medicine related field එකකට ඉන්නවා නම් සමහරවිට use වෙන්න පුළුවන්. අනිත් disciplines වල නම් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට use වෙන්නේ නැහැ past continuous tense එක. But we just know about the existence of it. Okay, let's see. Yes, so you are using past continuous tense when you're going to describe about an ongoing action that occurred in the past. Okay, that occurred, ongoing action that occurred in the past. Okay, again අතීතයේ සිද්ධ වුණ ongoing ක්‍රියාවක්. Okay, let's see. Patients with relapsed or refractory MM whose disease was progressing after 2 or more prior lines of therapy were eligible to participate. Okay, whose disease was progressing. Okay, මේක නම් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට use වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒත් දැනගෙන තියාගන්න ඔයගලන්ට materials and methods section එක use කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ disease එක මේ වෙනකොටත් ඒ කියන්නේ study එක කරන කාලෙත් ඒ disease එක progress වෙමින් තිබුණ අය තමයි මේ study එකට select කරලා තියෙන්නේ කියන එක තමයි අපි කියලා තියෙන්නේ. Okay, but again that is not frequently used. But what is the most important thing is past tense and the present perfect tense. Okay, and for people who are into humanities and social science related fields, you can actually go with the first construction. Others you can go for both, but humanities and social science also, depending on your requirement, you can use these. Okay, ඔයගොල්ලන්ට අවශ්‍ය නම් past perfect tense එක use කරන්න පුළුවන්. මේ කියන්නේ actions combine කරලා ලියනකොට. හැබැයි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට social sciences related fields වලදී අපි past tense construction එකට තමයි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට යන්නේ. හැබැයි tense එක හරියට දැනගෙන හිටියොත් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට combine කරන්න පුළුවන්. And people who are into science based, you will have to use both past tense and the past perfect tense, and especially the past perfect tense when you want to highlight two actions, okay, that happen in the past. Okay, let's see. And the result section. So result section also you are using like most of the time you are going for passive, most of the time you are going for past tense. Okay, let's see. So past tense you are using past tense, okay, because okay, by the time you write the paper, okay, you have already obtained these results. මොකද අපි paper එක ලියනකොට අපි මේ results obtain කරගෙන ඉවරයි. ඒ නිසා තමයි අපි past tense එකට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට යන්නේ. Okay, for example, analysis of the identified gene set revealed, okay, the induction of broad spectrum anti-pathogen response. Content එක complete කරන්න, tense එක ගැන focus කරන්න. එතකොට අපි result section එකේ ගොඩක් වෙලාවට හැබැයි ඔයගලන්ට ඕන නම් present tense වලට reveals කියලා කියන්නත් පුළුවන්. ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. හැබැයි අපි paper එක ලියන වෙලාවේ paper එක ලියනකොට අපි results obtain කරගෙන ඉවර නිසා තමයි අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට past tense වලට යන්නේ. Okay? Analysis of identified gene set reveals කියන්නත් පුළුවන්. ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. present tense වලින් යන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ගොඩක් කියන්නේ වඩා පැහැදිලි දේ තමයි පැහැදිලි සහ නිවැරදි දේ තමයි result section එක past tense එකෙන් යන්න එක. මොකද අපි paper එක ලියනකොට results අරගෙන ඉවරයි. Okay? So you will not get confusions. And let's see the discussion section. Okay? Again with the discussion, okay, you are not limited. You can actually use the like mixture of tenses. Okay, discussion එකේදී අපිට ආපහු tenses mixture එකක් use කරන්න පුළුවන්. For example, you can use past tense, present tense and future both. Discussion එකේදී අපිට ආපහු mixture එකක් යන්න පුළුවන්. Okay, now let's see how we are going to use the like future tense. Okay, now future tense you can specially use it when you're talking about the implications of the study. Okay, ඒ කියන්නේ study එකේ implications ගැන කතා කරනකොට අපිට future tense එක use කරන්න පුළුවන්. Okay, so let's see. Demonstrating whether forest elephants use clearings to maintain their relationships will allow us to, okay, will allow us to understand. So these are the like implications for further studies. Means demonstrating, okay, whether forest elephants use clearings to maintain their relationships. Okay, can අපි මේ forest elephants ලා කියන්නේ කැලෑවේ සුද්ධ කරපු ප්‍රදේශවල අපි ඒ පැත්තෙන් study එක focus කරොත් අපිට මෙන්න මේ දේ තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක. So those are the hints for further study. So when you're talking about the implications of the study, you can use future tense. You will say, okay, so if we can look at this, we can get this skill. අපි කියනවා implication එකක් කියන්නේ ඒකට. ඒ කියන්නේ මෙන්න මේ direction එකේ study එක ගෙනිච්චොත් අපිට මෙන්න මේ දේවල් observe කරගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා අපි සාමාන්‍ය research papers වල කියනවා. Because when you are doing your now implications, I will also talk few things about implications. Now implications of the study, that is really important. Okay, because if you take like a research, okay, now even within your topic also there is a like a huge area. Okay, there's a huge area. අපේ topic එක ඇතුළේ අපිට තියෙන ලොකු range එකක් තියෙනවා. So you are going to narrow it down and we'll be like taking a specific scope. අපි scope එකක් select කරගෙන කරන්න, because you will not be able to like go through everything. අපිට මේ හැම දෙයක්ම study කරන්න බෑ. Okay, but you know sometimes now imagine you are conducting that within Sri Lanka, so you might not have certain like laboratory facilities and all the technology is required. Okay, but you know if we can make use of this particular technology, we can reach this destination. අපිට මේ technology එක නැති නිසා අපි මේක කරන්නේ. හැබැයි ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නා මේ technology එක අපි use කරොත් okay මෙන්න මේ facilities අපිට use කරන්න පුළුවන්, මේ result එක ගන්න පුළුවන්. So implications also we usually include in a research paper then if somebody else is going to do a same research, they can look at our implications and then take forward it from that point onwards. ඒකයි අපි ගොඩක් research වල implications කියන part එක include කරන්නේ. So anyway, when you're talking about the implication part, which is going to be again in the discussion, සමහර අය මේක වෙනමත් දානවා. ඉතින් anyway, implications ගැන කතා කරනකොට ඔයගලන්ට future tense use කරන්න පුළුවන්. You can make use of future tense when you're talking about the implications of the study. Okay. And let's see how we are going to use the like mixed tense. Okay, how we are going to use mixed tenses. අපි mixed tenses use කරන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා බලමු. Okay, let's see. Males were most likely to be responsible for the creation of mixed groups. Males were most likely to be responsible for the creation of mixed groups, despite a female bias in the visiting population, and therefore appear. Okay, with the present tense. And therefore appear to be more socially exploratory and less socially choosy than females, as seen in savanna elephants. එතකොට අපි මෙතන tenses දෙකම use කරලා තියෙනවා. Okay, males were most likely to be responsible. Were, despite a female bias in the visiting population, and therefore appear to be. Okay, එතකොට tenses දෙකම use කරලා තියෙනවා. ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. And let's see. So when you're talking about figures and tables, again, you are using present tense. අපි figures and tables කතා කරනකොට ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ අර topics එහෙම දානකොට අපි use කරන්නේ මේ topics නෙමෙයි. ඔයගොල්ලෝ figures and tables ගැන refer කරනකොට අපි දාන්නේ present tense. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Selected examples are shown in table 1 and figure 2, or else you can also use, okay, as shown in figure 2. Okay, as shown in table 1. Okay, present tense but again we will go for like active, or like which one will we go, or else you can use, okay, figure 1 shows, but the better construction is passive. අපිට passive construction එකට මෙතන යන්න පුළුවන් නම් ගොඩක් හොඳයි, especially අපි body part එකේ figures and tables ගැන කතා කරනකොට. Okay, body part එකේ figures and tables වලට refer කරනකොට අපිට passive construction එකට යන්න පුළුවන් as shown in කියලා. Okay. Okay. But again, okay, let's see. Yeah, so especially in like physical sciences and in applied sciences, okay, you'll be referring to these tables and figures like often, so you can go for present tense. Let's see. Assuming ideal feedback, now the transfer function relating to IG and voltage U convert a current PI controller output results. Okay, output results, output, controller output results in. Okay, controller output results in. හේතු වෙනවා කියන එක. Okay, හේතු පාදක වෙනවා කියන එක මෙතන idea එක. So that's the end of that session. Any questions from that? Any questions from that? So did you understand that section? Are you okay with that? Yes? Yes, right? Okay. Yeah. So let's take like let's take a 5-minute break. I'll have a glass of water and come. I'm not well today. I'm not feeling well today. So let's take a 5-minute break and then I'll start the session by 8:35. Miss Shehani, is that okay? Shall I start the session by 8:35?
Sure, Miss Naoda, no issue.
Sure, right? Okay, so I'll be right back in another 5 minutes. You can also refresh yourself with a glass of water. So let's meet in another 5 minutes to start the other session, right? Okay. Yeah, I think y'all can see the screen. Okay. Can you see the screen clearly? Hello. Okay, right. Okay, so I shared my new screen, right? So again, now this session can be important for like all the people. Okay, if you are an undergraduate, also this might be important. Okay, because this is another like basic thing that you need to know. Okay, how to summarize and then paraphrase. But again, you need to like first one of the first thing is that you need to understand the difference. Okay, now for example. When to summarize and when to paraphrase. Okay, අපි එකක් තමයි වෙනස දැනගන්න ඕනේ. ඒ වගේම අපි හරියටම summarize කරන්නේ මොන වගේ අවස්ථාවලද, paraphrasing වලට යන්නේ මොන වගේ අවස්ථාවලද. So you need to know these instances properly. Okay, so for like regardless of regardless of which phase you are in, this is important for you all. Okay, yes. Now, let's look at a research context. Okay, let's first start with that because we are especially catering to research writing. Now, summarizing and paraphrasing are important for y'all because now, let's say you are going to like do a research paper. Let's take the literature review. Okay, now from the literature review, what we're going to do is we are going to look at the other research done by other people with regard to your like topic. අපේ topic එකට සම්බන්ධව අනිත් කට්ටිය කරලා තියෙන research ගැන තමයි අපි කතා කරන්නේ. Okay, so I'm just taking the literature review just for the example. My example එකට ගන්න literature review එක. So there, now when you're talking about the research papers of other people, there are like different ways for you to incorporate these things into your paper. Okay, now one thing is direct quoting. අපිට directly quote කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ කෙලිම ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ words වලින් inverted commas ගේ අපිට quote කරන්න පුළුවන්. The other one is, okay, now what are the other techniques? Apart from direct quoting, what are the other techniques that are available for you? Apart from direct quoting, what are the other techniques do we have to incorporate the resources from other people into our work? Now we take all these like reporting verbs, reporting verbs kara mage palawani session ekedi, okay, like stated, demonstrated, api words kara. Okay, so those are also going to be important here. Okay, so one is like citation, true. Okay, citation is like all what we are doing for this. Okay, what are the other techniques? Direct quoting and the other techniques are, okay, for it, other techniques for you to cite are summarizing and paraphrasing. එක්කෝ අපි ඒගොල්ලෝ කියපු දේවල් summarize කරනවා නැත්නම් අපි paraphrase කරනවා. So these are the other two techniques that are available for you. So first thing is you need to understand that, and then depending on whatever you do, and then also like with regards to your field, okay, you have to like put the citations correctly. Api citations, if you are going ahead with APA, then you have to cite these like summarized and paraphrased versions accordingly. If you're going ahead with IEEE, then you have to do it separately. And if you're going ahead with Harvard, then you have a different style. Okay, Chicago, whatever, you have to put the in-text citations and all these things appropriately. But for you to incorporate the sources from other people, these are another two techniques that are available. Okay, now apart from a research context, summarizing and paraphrasing is important for you. A research context එක අපි paraphrasing and summarizing use කරනදී අපි discuss කරේ. හැබැයි ඊට අමතරව අපි අනිවාර්යෙන් summarizing and paraphrasing ගැන දැනගන්න ඕනේ. Now let's say for example you are going for a workshop representing your company or else your university or something. Okay, so when you come, you will actually like summarize and say, okay, what happened there. Okay, so you don't know, but you are using these things in your daily life as well. Okay, so like imagine you are going to like tell somebody else, okay, what you read in a book. Okay, so you'll be using summarizing. Okay, so these techniques are used in those contexts as well, and specifically in research context, these things are very important for us. And then first we are going to understand the difference. Okay, let's start with that. Okay, now let me begin with summarizing. Okay, now in summarizing, okay, what you're doing is you are actually, if you are summarizing, remember, you're briefly outlining the main points of your reading. Okay, so that is one. Main points, okay, like at the end, tell me the like important takeaways from summarizing. So summarizing means you are briefly outlining the main points of whatever the thing that you are reading by using your own word. But remember, you cannot add the words of other people and you cannot add your own ideas, or else you are not permitted to change the author's original meaning. Okay, so this is the first thing that you need to remember when you are talking about summarizing. So one is, summarizing is all about taking the main points of the text that you are reading, and then you put that by using your own words, but you cannot add your ideas or else change the author's meaning. So these are the 4 things that you need to remember. So in the chat box, quickly tell me what is summarizing by using 4 points. By using 3 points. In the chat box, just quickly tell me what you understand by summarizing. Summarizing ගැන ඔයගලන්ට තේරෙන්නේ මට chat box එකේ points 3කින් ටක් ගාලා කියන්න. Because understanding that is very important. Okay. So I've given them here, but just let me know in the point form. I mean, what are the like 3 important things that you understood about summarizing? Okay, one is you are only taking key facts. Yes. Key things. Main ideas. Okay. What else? Okay, that's going to be the summary of author's findings. Okay, what the author said. What else? Are we allowed to add our ideas to this summary? Are we allowed to add our ideas? No. Okay. Can we change the author's meaning? Not adding your own ideas. Can we change the author's meaning? No. Okay. What do we have to use? Our own words or is the writer's words? Yes. Okay. Remember, you are using your own words. So let's look at it again. Okay. So summarizing means it's about the main points of your reading and you are writing them by using your own words, but you're not permitted to change the original meaning. Okay. So this is what you mean by summarizing. I hope you understood that. Okay. So did everyone understand what is summarizing? Did everyone understand what is summarizing? Yes, okay. And in a research context, specifically remember this, you have to accompany your summary with the citation. අපි අනිවාර්යෙන් research paper එක නම් summarize කරාට අපි අනිවාර්යෙන් citation එකක් දෙන්න ඕනේ. Okay? Yes, you have to acknowledge the source. So this is what you mean by summarizing. Summarizing can ඔන්න ඔය ටිකට. Okay? So let's see. Okay, now let's see when to summarize. Okay, මොකද මේ අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට දන්නේ summarize කරන්නේ අපි මොන අවස්ථාවලද කියලා. So that is also important. So let's see it. Okay, when to summarize. One is when a passage from a source is too long to quote or paraphrase. Okay, when a passage from a source is too long to quote or paraphrase. Okay, මොකද අපි ගන්න passage එක අපිට ගන්න ඕන passage එක direct quote කරන්නත් බෑ paraphrase කරන්නත් බෑ දිග වැඩි. So if it is too long, okay, you can select the main point and take it for you. So if you are taking the main point, what is the technique for you? Imagine you find a source outside, okay, which is too long, but then you have to include it. So if that is too long, can we quote it? Can we direct quote it? If it is too long, can we direct quote it? No. If it is too long, can we paraphrase it? No, right? So all those options are taken away from us. So if something, okay, if the thing that you want to include is too long, the only option that is left for you is to summarize, means to take the main points. Okay, so that is one instance. Let's say when only the main ideas of a source are relevant to your argument. Okay, when only the main ideas of a source are relevant to your argument. For example, if you want to address only the main claim, only the claim and reasons in an argument, not its evidence or warrants. Okay, now sometimes when we are reading something, okay, we are reading something in order to get something else to support our argument. අපේ ආගියුමන්ට් එකට සපෝට් කරන්න අපේ ක්ලේම් එකට සපෝට් කරන්න තමයි අපි වෙන කෙනෙක්ගෙන් දේවල් ගන්නෙ. Okay, so sometimes when you are reading something, okay, you only want to take the main idea of it. Okay, like other evidences, okay, other supporting details are not relevant to you. You only want to take the main idea because that is the only thing that is relevant to your argument. අපේ ආගියුමන්ට් එකට අදාළ ඒකේ main idea එක විතරයි. And supporting details, evidence, so in a case like that, you can go for summarizing and just take the main idea away. Okay, so that is another one. And let's see, when the details in a source might distract or confuse readers. Okay, when the details in a source might distract or confuse readers. For example, if a source raises issues that might interest your readers but are not relevant to your argument. Okay, now sometimes, okay, some of the details, okay, some of the details are like, they are interesting, but they are not relevant to your argument. අපි දැන් මොකක් හරි වෙන කෙනෙක්ගේ research paper එකක් කියනකොට අපිට තේරෙනවා මේක හරිම interesting. Okay, and then you think your readers will also agree with that, but that is not relevant to your particular point. අපි අපේ research paper එකේ ගන්න අපේ point එකට අදාළ නැහැ මේ අනිත් තොරතුරු. Okay, and if you are to add them, okay, even though they are interesting, okay, they are not directly catering to your argument. So it's going to be a waste of words. Okay, so they are again, okay, you only have to take the main thing out, okay, which directly support your argument. Then again, you can use summarizing. Okay, so these are the basic instances for you to summarize. Okay, I hope you understood when to summarize. Okay, now let's see how to do that. Okay, so these actually, like what you see here is a summary that is written by a student, and we are going to analyze this slowly and then see what you can take away. Okay, now it's about the dietary habits of Australian adolescents. Let's see. Can you see this clearly? Can you see this clearly? Can you identify this? Yes, right? Okay, let's see. Now let's look at the original source. Okay, මම මේක ගොඩාක් slowly කරන්න මොකද මේ technique එක ඔයගොල්ලෝ තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන නිසා. Okay, let's see. With respect to daily intakes of specific micronutrients, 40% of adolescent girls and 80% of adolescent boys were at risk for inadequate intakes of iron. While protein intakes were adequate in these subpopulations, the top two sources of iron were from plant-based iron-fortified sources. And within brackets, they have put breakfast cereals and breads and bread rolls. With regard to higher iron bioavailability and density, animal-based protein sources may be another strategy to address iron intake, particularly among females, and it has been previously shown to be a less popular food choice among Australian children and adolescents and avoided by young female adults. And the source is also given. Okay, so this is the original source. Okay, now when you are summarizing, okay, the important thing is you need to understand the context. Okay, if you don't understand the context properly, there are consequences. අපි summary එකක් ලියන්න කලින් අනිවාර්යෙන් context එක හරියට තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ. මොකද context එක අපි වරද්දලා interpret කරොත් that is not a summary, because when we discuss in our very first slide we said, okay, you are not permitted to change the author's original idea. අපිට author කියලා තියෙන idea එක change කරන්න බෑ. එතකොට author කියන idea එකට අපිට change නොකර අපේ වචන වලින් ලියන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ අපි මේක හරියට තේරුම් ගත්තොත් විතරයි. So when you are summarizing, okay, you will not, like me, even though you are an expert, okay, don't try to summarize something just by like just looking at it for percent වරදිනවා. Okay, මොකද මෙතන ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා, you cannot change the author's original idea, you have to retain the original meaning and you are only supposed to take the like main thing. So in order to do that, you have to understand this properly and get the meaning, get the correct meaning across. So that is important, right? So let's see. Now I'll just give you 2 minutes. Okay, read this for yourself. මොකද මම නිකන් තනියෙන් කියුවට වැඩක් නැහැ. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේක තේරෙන්නේ නැත්නම්. So I'll just give you 2 minutes. Read this quickly. And while you are reading, okay, try to take the main point in each sentence. Go sentence case. Sentence by sentence යන්න. එතකොට එක sentence එක main point එක මොකක්ද කියලා highlight කරන්න. Just make a sketch note for yourself. Okay. Now, for example, the first sentence stops after intakes of iron. Okay. So try to understand the main point of it. මම අපි මේ summary එකට paragraph එකක් කියන විදිහ මම කියලා දෙන්නේ. How to read. Okay. So you have to go first, you have to go sentence by sentence. Okay, so read the first sentence and try to understand the main point of it, and then go for the next sentence, try to understand the main idea of this. Okay, I hope you are done reading. Okay, yes. Okay, so I'm gonna like help you on how to read this as well. අපි summary එකට paragraph එකක් කියවන විදිය පොඩ්ඩක් අපි බලමු. Let's say, with respect to daily intakes of specific micronutrients, 40% of adolescent girls and 8% of adolescent boys were at risk for inadequate intakes of iron. So what is the main takeaway of this? What is the main takeaway of this? Do we have a main point in this first sentence? අපිට මේ පළවෙනි sentence එකේ main point එකක් තියනවද නැද්ද? Do we have a main point or not? Yes. And if you put some, just give me a minute. I have got a question, right? If we put a summary of original source. Okay, so I think what you are asking me is like when you get to see, okay, you are going to take a summary that is done in another paper. Is that what you mean? ඒ කියන්නේ වෙන කෙනෙක්ගේ paper එකක තියෙන summary එකක් අපි incorporate. So there are the methods, okay? Now sometimes that source we cannot find that source. අපිට ඒ source එක හොයන්න බෑ. Okay? එතකොට වෙන කෙනෙක්ගේ වෙන paper එකක තියෙන summary එකක් අපි ගන්නකොට you can write, okay, as cited in, and then you can put that particular author's name. As cited in, let's say as cited in HERA 2020. ඉතින් එතකොට මගේ paper එකේ cite කරලා තියෙන විදිහට. Okay? Did you get the answer? Okay. Yes. As cited in, and you can put it. Not a problem. Okay? Yes. So, for example, if you look at this one sentence, there is a main like idea. So what is the main idea in the first sentence? What is the main idea in the first sentence? The following sentence again, main idea එක මොකක්ද? With respect to daily intakes of specific micronutrients. Now, is that an important thing? With respect to daily ගන්න micronutrients සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපිට වැදගත්ද? That first sentence, first part of the sentence, is that relevant? No, that is not relevant. Okay, but let's see. 40% of adolescent girls and 8% of adolescent boys. Is that relevant? Is that statistic relevant? Is this relevant? Percentage, that percentage is relevant. A percentage එක අපිට වැදගත්. So you can take that. Okay, let's see. As boys were at risk for inadequate intakes of iron. So what do you think about this one? Inadequate intakes of iron, is that relevant? Inadequate intakes of iron, is that relevant? Inadequate intakes of iron means iron යකඩ ඌනතාවය මදි කියන එක. Okay, so that is relevant. So if you look at this first sentence, the most important facts are the statistic percentages that is given plus the inadequacy of the iron intake. Okay, so එතකොට 8 points දෙක තමයි අපිට මෙතන වැදගත්ම. Let's see. While protein intakes were adequate in these subpopulations, the top two sources of iron were from plants-based iron-fortified sources, breakfast cereals and breads and bread rolls. Now, in this second one, මේ දෙවෙනි sentence එකේ මොකද්ද වැදගත්ම point එක අපිට? Examples for iron intakes, or else the fact that they have an adequate protein intake. Protein intake එක මේගොල්ලන්ගේ ඇති කියන එකද නැත්නම් මේ iron වල examples, iron sources වල examples. So what is the important thing? What is the most important thing for you? Protein intake. Yes. Okay. So the other important point is the protein intake is adequate. Okay. So means even though they have an inadequate intake of iron, they have an adequate intake of protein. So those two facts are like really important. ඒගොල්ලන්ට iron වල deficiency එකක් තිබ්බට protein වල එහෙම නැහැ කියන එක අන්නේ facts දෙක තමයි ගොඩක්ම වැදගත්. So those two are important, whereas these sources will not be important. මොකද අපි summary එකක් ලියන්නේ නැහැ. summary එකේ අපිට මේ හැම detail එකක්ම දාන්න බෑ. So for example, okay, most of the time when you are writing a summary, you will have to do away with examples. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ඉතින් අපි summary එකක් ලියන නිසා මේ examples කියන දේවල් අපි අයින් කරනවා. Okay, so here also you don't have to give, following that logic, you don't have to quote that. So by now we have identified 3 facts. Okay, let's see. අපි දැන් facts, important facts තුනක් identify කරගෙන තියෙනවා. Okay. With regard to higher iron bioavailability and density, animal-based protein sources may be another strategy to address iron intake. Okay, particularly among females, as it has been previously shown to be a less popular food choice among Australian children and adolescents and avoided by young female adults. Now read through this sentence and tell me the main point. මේ sentence එක කියලා මට මේකේ main point එක කියන්න. Okay. Yes. Tell me the main point of this. With regard to higher iron මම ඔයගලන්ට අර read කරන විදිහට කියලා දෙන්න. මොකද මගේ මම දැන් session එකේ ගොඩක් undergraduates ලා ඉන්නවා. එතකොට research papers විතරක් නෙමෙයි ඒගොල්ලන්ට summary එකක් කරන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ summary එකක පළවෙනි step එක තමයි අපි හරියට දැනගන්න ඕනේ අපේ source passage එක misinterpret කරන්න නැතුව මේ කියවන විදිය. Okay, so that is the most important. So that's why I'm giving like a bit of training on that. Okay, especially for undergraduates. Okay, now let's see. With regard to higher, now the thing is this: once you identify these main points, you have to like underline them or do whatever, and then take them out. Okay, main points ටික අපි එළියට ගන්න ඕනේ. Let's see. With regard to higher iron bioavailability and density, animal-based protein sources may be another strategy to address iron intake. Okay, so I hope you understood the idea. Oh yes, okay, so the main point is importance of animal-based protein sources to address iron deficiency. So that is the main point of this one, this whole thing. Okay, now see this one sentence, okay, is running until here. Okay, it's like one sentence is constituting half of the passage. Okay, so but again the main idea is importance of animal-based protein sources to address the iron deficiency. Main point එක තමයි මේ iron deficiency කියන්නේ iron ඌනතාවයට පිළිතුරක් විදිහට අපිට animal based protein sources යොදා ගන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක තමයි main point එක. So now you have to combine them and take like you have to combine them and write the summary. Now let's see. Now you have identified the main like points. Then අපි main points ටික identify කරගෙන තියෙන්නේ. Now let's see how to write that. Okay, this is just a sample. මේ sample එක some of you all can write even better than this. Okay, but let's look at this sample. So see the citation is given. So follow the like giving the citation is very important. Now I think I got one question. මට මම හිතන්නේ මගෙන් ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇහුවානේ අර original source එකේ තියෙන summary එකක් අපිට source එක හොයාගන්න බැරි වුණාම අපි ගන්න කොහොමද? I'll put that in the like chat box. Okay, as cited in කියලා credentials then. Okay. Yes, now let's see. So you have given the citation, okay? Found that 40% of adolescent girls compared to 80% of boys are likely to have an inadequate amount of iron in their diets, in spite of sufficient protein intake. Now look at these words, okay? In spite of, okay? ඒ කියන්නේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට protein intake එක හරියට තිබ්බත් ඒගොල්ලන්ට මෙන්න මෙතන inadequacy එකක් තියෙනවා. So all the sentences are ideas are combined. Main ideas are combined. මෙතන main technique එක තමයි main ideas combine කරලා තියෙන්නේ. They attribute this to a tendency to avoid foods derived from animals. Okay, so if you want, you can write this in another way. Okay, this can be addressed by a sufficient intake of animal-based proteins. අපිට එහෙම කියන්නත් පුළුවන්. So you have to decide. Okay. Yes. So we don't have much time. So otherwise, I would like you to write this on your own. Okay. So did you understand the summary? Like we are discussing it like more. Okay. This is just like opening. So did you understand it? Yes. Now when you are like writing, okay, try to underline them. Okay. And then like I will also tell you some of the strategies. Now one thing is you found these main points in different sentences. අපි මේ main points එක එක sentence කොටස් වලින් අඳුරගත්තේ. එතකොට one thing is try to see whether you can combine these main points and write them as one sentence. Okay, main points ඔයගලන්ට combine කරන්න පුළුවන් තැන් වල combine කරන්න. Another technique is you can replace synonyms. Okay, synonyms replace කරන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට තව විශේෂ ටෙක්නික් එකක් තියෙනවා. Now this is like they say okay, they have an inadequate intake of iron, but then they have a like adequate intake of protein. Okay, so see words like in spite of මේ වගේ අපිට තියෙනවා මේ වචන වාක්‍ය combine කරන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ meaning wise ගන්න පුළුවන් transitional words තියෙනවා, phrases තියෙනවා. Okay, එතකොට ඒවා මතක තියාගන්න. ඒවා use කරන්න පුළුවන්. Okay, so that is another one. And sometimes I'm generally telling you about techniques. Okay, and sometimes you can go for like passive the original passage එක active තිබ්බනම් ඔයගලන්ට passive construction එකකින් යන්න පුළුවන්. Okay, so and sometimes you can also change the places where they have put the information. තව එක technique එකක් තමයි information තියෙන areas එකනේ ඉස්සලා කියන දේ අපිට කලින් කියලා පටන් ගන්න. But again you have to be careful. Okay, you can change the places where they have placed the information තියෙන order එක change කරලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට synonym replacement එකට යන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට ideas main ideas combine කරලා එක sentence එකකට ලියන්න පුළුවන්. And also like you can change the tense. අපිට ඒව නම් පොඩක් පරිස්සම් කරලා අපිට සමහරවිට tense එක change කරන්න පුළුවන්. tense එක change කරන්න පුළුවන්. Okay, එතකොට active voice passive voice change කරන්න පුළුවන්. So these are some of the techniques for you. These are some of the techniques for you to adopt, especially when you are writing, summarizing, and paraphrasing both. ඔය දෙකටම අපිට මේ techniques ඔක්කොම use කරන්න පුළුවන්. Okay? Yes. And now let's look at paraphrasing. Okay. So paraphrasing means, okay, expressing information or ideas from other sources in your own words in a similar number of words as the source text. So what is the main difference between summarizing and paraphrasing? Summarizing velai paraphrasing velai pradhana venaskam mokadda? What is the main difference between summarizing and paraphrasing? This is the other thing that you need to understand. What is the main difference? What is the main difference? Yes. What is the main difference between paraphrasing and summarizing? Yes. Main difference lies in the length. Okay, length එකේ තමා වෙනස තියෙන්නේ. Because now in summarizing we said you are writing them by using your own words. True. Okay, you are not changing the author's original meaning. That is also true. Okay, but it's the similar number of words. Okay, in paraphrasing you are actually writing similar number of words as in the original source. Paraphrasing එකේදී අපි summarizing එකේදී main points ටික අරගෙන තමයි ලියන්නේ. එතකොට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට most of the cases it will be like 1/3 of the original. Summarizing means like 1/3 of the original passage. Paraphrasing is the exact length, but in your case, especially in the research papers and all that, you can make it 80% of the original source, 90% not a problem. Okay, length එකේ තමා වෙනස තියෙන්නේ. Paraphrasing කියන්නේ ඒ තියෙන source එක ඒ විදිහටම අපි වචන වෙනස් කරලා ලියන එක. ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ ideas නැතුව ඕතගේ ideas දාලා ඒ තියෙන paragraph එක ඒ length එකටම ලියන එක. හැබැයි ඔයගලන්ට 80% 90% උනා කියලා ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. Okay, හැබැයි summarizing that is like 1/3. Usually it's 1/3 of the original passage. Okay, so the like major difference is the length. Okay, I hope you understood it. Let's see. Now, what you need to realize is paraphrasing is not simply replacing words with synonyms and rearranging the sentence structures. And now, you know, like we are going to get the exact length up then original source එකේ තියෙන length එකටමනේ අපි paraphrasing උත් වෙන්නේ. ඒකේ main points විතරක් නෙමෙයි ගන්නේ ඔක්කොම original document එක අපි වෙන වචන වලින් ලියන එකනේ කරන්නේ. Now, it doesn't say that you are going to replace synonyms. ඒකෙන් කියන්නේ අපි මේ exact word count එක කියලා තියෙන word synonym replace කර නැත්නම් sentences මාරු කර යනවා කියන එක. Okay, there is a like more difference. I mean, you need to again, like how we did for summarizing, you have to understand the whole thing by reading it carefully and then try to write that in a different way. Okay, rather than just replacing synonyms. Okay, let's see. It involves replacing a text substantially while retaining the original meaning. So they are also you have to get the like main meaning and then write that by using your own words, but you cannot change the author's meaning. You have to retain the original meaning. අපිට original idea එක වෙනස් කරන්න බෑ. Sentence එක තියෙන sentence එක වෙන විදිහකට කියනවා මිසක් අපි original sentence එකේ idea එක වෙනස් කරන්නේ නැහැ. Okay, let's see. Paraphrasing involves acknowledging the original source with proper referencing that you know. Again, there are also you have to put the citations. Okay, in-text citation එක අපි දෙන්න ඕනේ. Okay, now especially in the research context, now what are the like common things that you see in between paraphrasing and summarizing? Common features මොනවාද? What are the common features of summarizing and paraphrasing? What are the common features? What are some of the common features? What are the common features? Yes. Okay, one is using your own words. Okay, we are using our own words. And there is another common thing which is very important, shortening. Shortening is not common to all. Shortening දෙකටම common නැහැ. මොකද paraphrasing අපි shortening, we are not doing shortening in paraphrasing. Okay, අපි idea එක කොට කරන එක නෙමෙයි කරන්නේ මේ paraphrasing වල ඒ length එකටම ගන්න. හැබැයි ඔයගලන්ට අර 80% 90% තිබ්බට කමන්නේ. So shortening is not the common feature. There is another important common feature in addition to using your own words. What is that? What is that? Actually, summarizing and paraphrasing revolves around that. Exactly, okay? Without changing the author's idea. So in both, you are not allowed to change the author's idea. Now that is true, okay? So if you try to think of it logically, that makes sense, okay? Now imagine you are going to use these things and you are going to use these things in a research paper. අපි research paper එක මේ techniques use කරනකොට අපි වෙන මිනිස්සෙක්ගෙන් article එකකින් ගන්න දෙයක් වෙනස් කරොත් එහෙනම් එතනින්ම අපි knowledge, like we have, you know, like we have distorted the meaning, we have distorted the knowledge. Okay, අපිට වෙන කෙනෙක් කරපු research එකක් ඒකේ idea එක වෙනස් කරලා බොරු අදහසක් දෙන්න බෑ, which is like totally wrong. Okay, not acceptable. So that is why you are strongly asked not to change the original meaning. ඒකයි අපිට මේ original meaning එක change කරන්න එපා කියන එක නිතර නිතර අපෝ කියන්නේ. Okay, I hope you understood that. Okay, because when you are incorporating somebody else's thing, it must add to our argument, but it doesn't say that we have to change it, like we have to change it behind the curtain to suit our purpose. ඒකෙන් කියන්නේ අපිට වෙන කෙනෙක්ගේ රිසර්ච් එකකින් අපි ගන්නවා කියන්නේ අපි කට විදිහට ඒ මිනිස්සයා ඇත්තටම කියලා තියෙන දේ වෙනස් කරලා මේ knowledge කියන දේ මේ විනාශ කරන එක නෙමෙයි ඇත්තටම කරන්න ඕනේ. අපේ ආගියුමන්ට් එකට හැදෙන්න ඒකට හරියන්නේ කියලා අපි සම්පූර්ණ වෙන කෙනෙක් කියපු දෙයක් misinterpret කරලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ. Okay, so that's why you are asked not to change the original meaning, because that might have like serious consequences. And again, that's why you are asked to like put references for both. දෙකටම references දෙන්න කියන එකයි. In case if you have changed it, if somebody finds it doubtful, they can always refer to the original source and see whether it happens really. Okay, so I hope you understood the difference between summarizing and paraphrasing. Okay, now let's see when to paraphrase. අපි මේ technique එක use කරන අවස්ථා ටික බලමු. Okay, let's see when the ideas are more important than the author's authority or the style. Okay, now ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා summarize කරන්න මොන වගේ අවස්ථාවලද කියලා. Now we are going to see like when to paraphrase. Okay, now sometimes, okay, sometimes you get to see, okay, now different authors have different ways of writing. අපි එක එක්කෙනාගේ writing style එක වෙනස්. Okay, now for some people their writing styles are so simple that when you read it you can easily understand the idea. Some researchers, they are like a style of writing is so difficult and complex for other people to comprehend. සමහරලාට ඔයගලන්ට තේරෙයි සමහර research papers වල idea එක සම්පූර්ණයෙන් මේ ඒ කියන්නේ කියලා තියෙන විදිය තේරුම් ගන්න අමාරුයි, complex. Okay, and also like huge paragraphs, okay, and huge sentences. සමහරට sentences ගොඩාක් දිග වැඩි. Writing style එක හරිම complex words දාලා තියෙනවා. So there, when you find that the author's style of writing is like not suitable, okay, and when you find like author's facts are important than their writing style, you can go for paraphrasing. ඒ කියන්නේ style එකට වැඩිය ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ කියලා තියෙන දේ අපිට වැදගත් නම් අපිට ඇත්තටම යන්න පුළුවන් paraphrasing වලට. So that is one. Okay, let's see. When the original language isn't particularly memorable but the ideas are same thing. Okay, ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට original language එක කියලා තියෙනවා comprehend කරන්න හරි අමාරු, හරිම complex. Okay, so when you are going to incorporate the same thing again into your one, you know, like you will not make sense out of it. Your readers will also not make sense out of it. Okay, ඉතින් එතකොට අපිට මේ language aspect එකේ issues තියෙනකොට අපිට ගොඩාක් complex වගේ නම් ඒගොල්ලෝ ලියලා තියෙන විදිහ අපිට ඒක simplify කරලා paraphrase කරලා ගන්න පුළුවන් අපේ document එකට. Okay, let's see. When the original language is too difficult to understand, for instance, when the particular jargon or the complexity of the original work is so difficult to understand. Okay, so I told you this earlier as well. Okay, ඒ කියන්නේ ගොඩක් complex now. Let's say for example the technical jargon, okay, they are using high fluent technical jargons. okay technical jargon එක අපිට තේරුම් ගන්නම අමාරුයි. So sometimes you will also have to look at some of those phrases. සමහරවිට අපිටත් ඒ phrases internet එකේ search කරලා අපිට හොයාගන්න වෙනවා. Okay, so in cases like that, okay, you can put them in simply by paraphrasing. මොකද නැත්තම් අපි මේ ගොඩක් paraphrasing summarizing ගැන කතා කරලා මම දැක්ක දෙන ළමයි ගොඩක් අය like most of us do not know like when exactly to paraphrase and summarize. Okay, no, there is a purpose එකක් තියෙනවා. Okay, let's look at this one. Okay, so again this is written by a student. Okay, so like one mistake that you can see is, okay, this is not exactly as the like this is not the exact length of the original paragraph. Okay, මේ original paragraph එකේ length එකම නෙමෙයි මෙතන තියෙන්නේ. මේක තව ටිකක් information add කරන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි research write up එකදී ඕගොල්ලන්ට original paragraph එකේ තියෙන word count එකම ගන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. 90ක් 85ක් වගේ length එකට අඩු වුණා චුට්ටක් අඩු වුණාට කමක් නැහැ. But if you are especially going for a test, okay, the undergraduate කෙනෙක් ඔයගොල්ලෝ language related paper එකකට ගන්නවා නම් අනිවාර්යෙන් original source එකේ length එක තියෙනවා. research purpose වලදී නම් ඉතින් අර original word count එකම අවශ්‍යයි කියලා එහෙම නීතියක් නැහැ. මේ පොඩ්ඩක් අඩු වුණාට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. yes. Okay, a technical jargon, I'll explain it. Okay, technical jargon, I think I explained that in my first session. My first session ekedi explain kara. Technical jargon means now let's say you are into medicine. Okay, if you are into medicine, there are like terms related to, there are special words and terminologies related to your field. Okay, if you are into English language teaching, then there are special terminologies. ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ field එකට අදාළ වචන තියෙනවානේ. දැන් management නම් අපිට වෙනම employee turnover. Okay, ඔය වගේ අපිට වෙනම මේ අපේ subject එකට අපේ topic එකට අදාළ වචන තියෙනවා. So there are terms. Okay, so some people are using high flown technical terminologies, means like all their paper is based on technical terminologies. දැන් සමහර කට්ටිය ගොඩාක් ඒ terms දන්නා වැඩි වුණාම අපි නිකන් sentence එකේ ඒ terms ගොඩාක් include කරනවා. So technically other people will not understand. So sometimes you can see when to reduce as well. So technical terminology කියන්නේ, technical jargon කියන්නේ, technical terminology means special words and terms related to our field or our topic. I hope that answers your question. Yes. Now let's see. Yes, okay. Okay, let's see. Course design. So this is the original source, okay? Then me paraphrasing or summarizing in both, okay? You have to understand. මම මේක අර ඉස්සෙල්ලා ඔයගලන්ට අර වෙලාව දීලා මේක කියවන විදිහට, මොකද මේ ඔය අයිඩියා එක හරියට ගන්න නම් අපි මේක හරියට කියවන්න ඕනේ. මේක කියව ගන්න බැරි වුණොත් එහෙම අයිඩියා එක අනිවාර්යෙන් misinterpret වෙනවා. So that thing we told, okay, over again and again, like you cannot change the original meaning. අර අපි නිතරම කිව්ව original meaning එක වෙනස් කරන්න බෑ කියලානේ. එතකොට ඔය දේ සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Original meaning එක වෙනස් වෙනවා අපි මේක හරියට කියුවේ නැත්තම්. So reading is the most important thing. That is actually the first step. Okay, let's see. Course design and content were critical influences on interest. For instance, courses that students chose to do or that offered opportunities for choice of subtopics or assessments enable them to follow their interest and therefore experience as positive spiral. Okay, ඒ කියන්නේ course design එකක් නැත්නම් course content එක තමයි අපේ interest එක රඳාපවතින ප්‍රබලම හේතුව. Okay, එතකොට ළමයිට, ඒ කියන්නේ ළමයිට තෝරගන්න දෙන courses අපිට course එකක් select කරන්න දෙනවා නම්, so we would usually select courses based on our interest. එතකොට අපි කැමැත්තෙන් තෝරගන්න courses වල like positivity වැඩි. Okay, because you have selected something that you have an interest on. Okay, so that is the idea of these two sentences. Okay, on the other hand, compulsory courses and subtopics that did not interest the students often led to boredom and frustration. Okay, අනිත් පැත්ත තමයි compulsory courses. Okay, compulsory courses, again ළමයි අකමැති compulsory courses වලට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට interest එකක් නැහැ, and also they find the content is boring. Okay, let's see. Boredom was consistently linked with lower behavioral and cognitive engagement. Okay, boredom was cognitively linked with lower behavioral and cognitive engagement. එතකොට මේ boredom නිකන් interest එකක් නැහැ කියන එක ගොඩක් වෙලාවට cognitive levels එක තමයි බලපාන්නේ. Bored students procrastinated more, studied less, and importantly found the learning more difficult. Okay, එතකොට ස්ටුඩන්ට්ස් ලා ඒගොල්ලෝ ගන්න කෝස් යුනිට් එක ගැන ඉන්ට්‍රස්ට් එකක් නැති වුණාම ඒගොල්ලෝ තියෙන වැඩ කල් දානවා. එතකොට අඩුවෙන් ඒ වෙනුවෙන් මහන්සි වෙන්නේ. ඒ වගේම තමයි ඉගෙන ගන්න එකත් ඒගොල්ලන්ට අමාරුයි. So that is the main idea of this. Okay, so now here if you are paraphrasing this, you have to write it from the same length. Let's see. Okay, in the research study undertaken by Kahu, okay, now here you have to provide the citation. Citation is අනිවාර්යෙන් දෙන්න. Kahu, students struggle to learn material that did not interest them. However, they were highly motivated to learn and were more successful when studying topics they chose themselves. Kahu concludes that the students' interest in learning is greatly influenced by the design and the content of the curriculum. Okay. Now here this actually looks more like a summary. Okay, මෙතන මේ student ගේ version එක ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මේ paraphrased version එකට වැඩි summary එකක් වගේ. So if you are writing, you have to add few more details. Okay. Now again, but anyway, let's look at the technique. මෙතන use කරලා තියෙන techniques බලමු. Now in the research, okay, students struggle to learn material that did not interest them. මේ point එක original paragraph එකේ කොතනද ඔයගලන්ට හම්බ වෙන්නේ? At the beginning, middle or at the end? What you see in the paraphrased version, okay, what you first see in the paraphrased version, where do you see that in the original version? We are going to look at techniques. මේ ආශ්‍රිත අපි techniques identify කරගන්න. Where do you see that? Beginning, middle or at the end? Students struggle to learn material that did not interest them. මේ point එක ඔයගලන්ට original source එකේ කොතනද හම්බ වෙන්නේ? End. Okay, now see here. Okay, in the end, both students procrastinated more, studied less. Okay, and found learning more difficult. So here, when you are like getting that for the summary, they have taken it to the beginning. That is another technique. අපිට use කරන්න පුළුවන් එක technique. But again, see the context. Context එක අනුව බලන්න. සමහරවිට information තියෙන arrangement එක අපිට වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන්. Okay. However, they were highly motivated to learn and more successful when studying topics they chose themselves. මෙතන ගොඩක් වෙලාවට summary එකක් වගේ තමයි ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. Okay, because they have removed the like examples and all that. For example, if you are paraphrasing this, you can include this thing about like compulsory courses and optional courses. එතකොට compulsory and optional courses ගැන sentence එකක් ඔයගලන්ට include කරන්න පුළුවන්. Okay, so this is how you write the paraphrased version. Let's see. Kahu concludes that the student interest in learning is greatly influenced by the design and content of the curriculum. Where do you get to see this? May sentence එක ඔයගලන්ට කොහෙද original passage එකේ හම්බෙන්නේ? Where do you get to see this one in the original source? Original source එකේ කොතනද හම්බෙන්නේ? In the beginning, middle, or at the end? Yes. In the beginning. Okay, so in the beginning, you actually now see course design and content were critical influences of interest. So the same thing. මුලින් තමයි හම්බ වෙන්නේ පළවෙනි sentence එක. එතකොට paraphrased version එකේ මේක අන්තිම sentence එක. So these are some of the techniques. Okay, sometimes if you want, you can go for, now in the original one, if you get to see the active voice, okay, in the paraphrased or in your summary, you can go for the passive construction. Active voice වලින් නම් තියෙන සමහරවිට අපිට passive construction එකට යන්න පුළුවන්. Now, what I want you to realize is, okay, summarizing and paraphrasing are not just merely you trying to replace with synonyms. Synonyms replace karne ko vitarak නෙමෙයි. There is another meaning. Okay, so that's what I want you to understand from this. Now, let's see all of them together. Okay, අපි මේ ඔක්කොම දැන් එකට බලමු. Let's look at the original version. Okay. Students frequently overuse direct quotation in taking notes. And as a result, they overuse quotations in the final research paper. Probably only about 10% of your final manuscript should appear as directly quoted matter. Therefore, you should strive to limit the amount of extracts transcribing of source materials while taking notes. Okay, let's see. This is the original passage. And let's see a legitimate or is an acceptable paraphrased version. In research papers, students often quote excessively. Okay, yes. Failing to keep quoted material down to a desirable level. So that is one thing. Okay. Since the problem usually originates during note taking, it is essential to minimize the material recorded verbatim. Okay. So this is an acceptable paraphrased version. Okay, may paraphrased version. Okay. Let's look at an acceptable summary. Okay. Students should take just a few notes in direct quotation from sources to help minimize the amount of quoted material in research paper. එතකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ බැලුවොත් තේරෙයි original meaning එක තියෙනවා හැබැයි word sentence structure එක ඔක්කොම වෙනස්. Okay? Yes. And let's look at the like paraphrased plagiarized version. අපි බලමු plagiarized version එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා. Means something that is not acceptable. Okay? Students often now frequently what has happened? Frequently is used with often. Frequently කියන word එක often කරලා. Okay? Overuse direct quotations. Okay? Often use too many. Okay? Overuse කියන එක too many කරලා. Direct quotations when they take notes when කියන එකට in කියලා. So this is not you like doing paraphrasing. මේ synonym replacement එක නෙමෙයි paraphrase කියන්නේ. Okay? And see as a result කියන එක resulting in කියලා දාලා. Okay? So මේ වගේ තමයි ඉතින් ගොඩක් කට්ටිය ලියන්නේ. This is not acceptable. Many of them in the final research. Same idea. Okay? In fact, probably කරලා. In fact, see, in fact, probably now same thing. එක වචනයක් විතරක් add කර probably only. Okay, about 10% of the final final copy manuscript කියන එක copy කරලා. Should appear කියන එක should consist directly quoted. Same thing. These kind of things are not acceptable. So it is important to limit the amount of therefore කියන එක show කරලා. Okay. So nothing much of a difference. Whereas when you look at this, okay, then මෙතන words මෙතන බැලුවොත් එහෙම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙයි. So this is totally changed, but the meaning is there. Okay. In research papers, students often quote excessively. Research papers students නිතරම අධික විදිහට quote කරනවා. Failing to keep quoted material down to a desirable level. Okay. So none of the like even though the meaning is retained, words and sentence structures are not the like exact thing. Okay, so එතකොට අපි කරන්නේ idea එක තේරුම් අරගෙන අපේ words වලින් දාන එක synonym replacement එකක් විතරක් නෙමෙයි. Okay, so with that I think I took like 3 minutes from your session. Okay, so with that I'm going to conclude the session, and I think I have got one question in the chat box. Okay, on if somebody just want me to give a like quick thing about how to write a book review. Okay, now when you're writing an academic book review, okay. Yes, Miss Shehani will upload this video. She will upload this video. Not a problem. You can have it. Okay. Now I will quickly tell, since I got this question, I'll quickly tell you about how to write an academic book review. In detail. Now in an academic book review, okay, one of the first thing is that you have to introduce. Okay, you have to say, okay, what is the title and who's the author, and you have to give all those details. Okay, and then while you're doing it, you have to comment on the methodology, and then you have to say like you have to also look at the expertism of the author. Okay, and then like see, okay, you have to like analyze the methodology analyze karanone, and then you also need to locate that particular book in the wider context of the topic, and let's see, or you have to see how that contributes to the current knowledge. Knowledge okay, what are the weaknesses, okay, how will the like writer address this area, and also in a book review you need to see what is the unique contribution that is given by this particular author in this book. Okay, and then how chapters and things are arranged with what purpose. Okay, so that is how you usually do a book review. Okay, අපි methodology එකට එහෙම special focus එකක් කියන්නේ ඒ හැම දෙයක්ම analyze කරන්න, why this method is used. Okay, what is the function of it. Okay, and if there are weaknesses, what are the weaknesses and lapses. If there are strengths, what are they. and what is the ultimate contribution of this book to the larger field of discussion. Okay, so any questions from your end?
Ma'am, do we
Yes.
need to write a conclusion for this when we are writing a book review? Our own conclusion.
Yes, okay. I mean, you have to give your own assessment. You have to
Okay,
give, I mean, what you think, okay? I mean, now sometimes, okay, sometimes you might also see, okay, these people are like biased towards certain things. Okay, so as a neutral person, you can take them out and you can comment on that. Overall, you can give your assessment of like, you can give the overall assessment of the book. Okay.
Thank you. Okay,
Overall assessment of the book in relation to the context of that topic. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒ topic එකට අදාළව අපේ overall assessment එක දෙන්න ඕනේ. Okay, where does it locate in the larger like context of the discussion? Okay, that's it. So with that, I think I have already taken like 6 minutes of your time, and then if there are no questions, I would like to wind up the session. Ms. Shahani, over to you.
Yes, Ms. Nawada. Actually, I would like to start off by thanking Ms. Nawada Herath for conducting the short course in academic writing for research successfully. The teaching techniques and the effort you made to answer everyone's questions were tremendous throughout the course. So on behalf of Stanford International Campus, I would like to offer our gratitude for your valuable contribution and efforts. So thank you very much, Ms. Nawada. And on behalf of Stanford International Campus, we also like to thank all our participants for your active participation. You have been a wonderful audience, so thank you very much for that as well. And about your e-certificate, after processing your attendance, you will receive your certificate of completion within next 3 weeks' time. So even though this course ends here, lots of other research-related courses are coming up. So we would like to invite all of you to follow more courses with us, and we will share more details related to all the courses in future, so kindly keep in touch. And with that, once again, thank you very much. We wish you all the very best. Good night, everyone, and stay safe. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nawada.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you so much for joining with us.